Hi, welcome back. Happy New Year. My name is Mathilde and I'm 24 years old. And today I'm going to make a video about some steps and resolutions that you can take in 2021 to be kinder to this planet.
Seems strange, try to song about someone looking in the rear view, dreaming about the lone sun. I'm not really thinking about the waves, about the next one. Not really about that, you did never like that. In the way you feel to me is...
So first, the number one thing that you can do to be kinder to this planet is to eat less meat and less dairy products. In general, less animal products. So I personally became vegetarian in September and I haven't eaten any meat since. I do eat cheese and eggs and occasionally I eat fish, so technically that makes me a pescatarian. You do not have to go full-on vegetarian, even full-on vegan, but I would suggest to reduce your meat intake and dairy intake and animal products because animal agriculture contributes up to 18% of all greenhouse gases that are emitted into the atmosphere, therefore contributing to climate change. And also animal agriculture uses 8% of fresh water resources around the world, and there's just a lot of other problems linked to animal agriculture and how we practice it today. So I would suggest starting with looking up recipes that you like and adapting them to a vegetarian version. So for example, let's say you really love lasagna with meat. Instead, you could replace the beef with a kind of like meat substitute, so either beans, or maybe you can go and look for a, Beyond Burger or something, Beyond Meat Burger or something similar, and put it in your lasagna. So I would start by maybe taking your favorite meals, like I said, going on Pinterest, looking for inspirations on how to do a meatless version. And I would also start with Meatless Mondays, for example. There is a movement on social media where every Monday people post themselves eating meals that don't have meat, and then eventually maybe you could bring that to 2 days a week where you don't eat meat, or 3 days. And depending on how you feel with the experience, it could end up being a challenge to go for a week without any meat. And for me, I'm vegetarian, so I don't eat any meat. So for me, eventually I would like to try and challenge myself to eat vegan a couple of times a week, because even animal products that aren't meats like dairy, eggs, fish aren't great for the environment. So that is my first resolution, for you to kind of adapt your diet in a way that is more eco-friendly for the planet. The second thing is to buy less things. So in this society, we're always prompted by friends, by social media, by ads, to buy new things, to be up with the new trends. And as someone who's conscious about the impact of things on the environment, I still fall prey to buying lots of things. Especially during the first lockdown, I developed a dependence on online shopping as a coping mechanism. I wasn't as bad as maybe other people, but it was not like me, and because I was more on social media, I fell into a trap kind of wanting new things all the time. But the thing is, I promise you, if you open up your closet or your cabinet or anything, you own a lot of stuff already. So I would challenge you to go, for example, I'm gonna take the example of a clothing because that's a big thing that people buy a lot of. Like on YouTube, you see a lot of people doing hauls every month. So I would challenge you to go into your closet, empty everything out as if you were to declutter, and you can also in the process declutter, and try on different clothing. Try to build outfits with the clothing you already own, because one, you'll be saving money, and two, you won't be buying more stuff, which everything you buy goes through a manufacturing process. And every manufacturing process has a certain impact on the environment because you need the resources, you need the labor. A lot of like clothing, for example, I'm going to keep with that example, it requires a lot of water to like dye the fabrics, and it requires also some kind of energy source to make the machinery work. A lot of times there's a lot of labor involved, and the people that are doing the labor aren't necessarily compensated the right way, and they don't really have rights that are respected. And so you want to like become more aware of what goes into what you buy. Thirdly, learn to repair and restore things. So that's actually a reminder to myself. I want to learn how to sew. It's been a goal of mine for a while, and I want to learn to repurpose items instead of throwing them away and getting rid of them. A prime example is this shirt. So this shirt was actually white. I got it from Misguided, which I've decided not to shop on anymore, even if their stuff is very trendy and cute, because I just don't like how they treat their workers, etc. And I could have thrown away this shirt because it had a big stain and it was very visible. So instead of throwing it out, I decided, well, first of all, I'm bored of this white shirt, and second of all, there's a stain, so I'm gonna tie-dye it. So you could argue tie-dye is not very good for the environment, and I agree, and I try to find a non-toxic, version of tie-dye, but it might still contain some chemicals that aren't great for the environment. However, by tie-dyeing it and giving it a new life, I am holding onto this shirt and not throwing it out. So in a way, I'm minimizing the waste that I'm creating, and this shirt can have a second life. I feel like I just bought a new shirt from the store. Like, I feel like I did a very good job. So if you have like something like a jacket where you need to sew buttons on again, you can do it yourself instead of like throwing it out. If you have a rip in a garment, you can learn to sew it up and you don't have to like throw it out. You can just give life to new things. That you can even customize items. So I'm really on the topic of clothing because, like I said, clothing is a very wasteful, there's a very wasteful attitude towards clothing these days. Like, people buy a bunch of clothes, wear it a couple times and then throw it out. So I think it's like the best example that I have. For example, if you own a pair of jeans that you're really bored with, you can buy fabric pens and draw all over them, like some designs, some really cute designs. I've seen some ideas on TikTok. I'm sure there are some on Pinterest. Another thing is you can learn to embroider, which I want to learn how to embroider, and you can embroider on your jeans or on a shirt that you, like I said, you don't wear anymore because you find it boring. Fourthly, I don't know if that's a word, try to invest in some reusable personal care items. So I made a video, I will link it down below, about some sustainable swaps that you can do. An item I would strongly encourage to get is a safety razor for those of you who like to shave. Let's say if you're a guy, you shave your beard, or a woman, like you shave your intimate parts and your legs, etc. And what's really cool about this is you can use it as many times as possible. Once you're done using it in the shower or the bath or whatever, you rinse it, and then you put it in a safe, cool and dry place. And this is really cool. It opens up like this, and you have the blade. So this is the blade, and you just buy, well, actually this came with 5 or 4 other blades. So once I feel the blade isn't sharp enough anymore, I can change it out, and I can use this as many times as I'd like. The other thing this is specific to people who menstruate is to invest in reusable period pads, and also, I'm wearing it right now, but a Diva cup. I think it's better to invest in a Diva cup. It's a bit pricey up front. There's also many different types of cups, not just Diva cups. There's other brands. There's different sizes, colors, etc. You have to learn how to properly wash it and stuff. But there's a lot of resources online on how to use menstrual cups easily. Anyways, once you learn how to use them correctly, you're set. You just pop that baby in, keep it in for the whole day. If you have it down, it's not going to leak or anything, and you can use it as many times as you want. Other ideas of zero waste items are, for example, going from bottled shampoo to bar shampoo. So you can reuse containers, things like that. There's just a lot of ideas online of different YouTubers. I think Sedona Christina is a good one. Shell Bizzle or Bisley, I don't remember. There's just if you type zero waste swaps, there's a lot of ideas. Fifthly, that's definitely not a word either. Educate yourself about the environment. So there's a lot of resources. There are books you can read. So these are actually, I read them for one of my environment courses during my undergrad. There's, I crushed them together. There's Naomi Klein, This Changes Everything, Capitalism versus the Climate. I would say this is more for someone who's intermediary, and if you already know what climate change is and like some of the underlying issue. This talks more about the link between our economy, the systems in power, and the climate crisis. And it's just very interesting. I actually need to reread it because when I was reading it in class, we read through it very fast and it was a very busy semester, so I didn't get to read everything. Same thing for this book, actually. It was just like we were assigned too much reading in a small amount of time, but this is a very beautiful book. It's called Braiding Sweetgrass. This is more about thinking about our connection, like spiritual connection, cultural connection to nature. It also talks about the dichotomy between science and indigenous knowledge, because this lady is a scientist, but she's also a indigenous scholar, an indigenous individual. So she talks about her relation to nature from both worldviews. It's very interesting. There's also a very famous one is Silent Spring by, I think, Rachel Carson. It's about the birth of the environmental movement. When Rachel Carson started to realize that DDT was having an effect on eggshells of wild birds and how it's causing the mortality of like wild birds, and then she realized it also affected human health. Then if you're not so much of a reader, there are a lot of documentaries. So if you're interested in learning more about the effects of animal agriculture on the environment, there's Cowspiracy. There's all the David Attenborough Planet Earth documentaries, especially his last one, A Life on This Earth, where he describes how in his lifetime there's been a huge decline in biodiversity and he's seen it through his eyes, and it's very sad, but it just kind of shows you like one of the effects of our climate crisis. Like, it's affecting us, but it's also affecting all this wildlife, and we're just losing this beauty through this crisis. In terms of YouTubers that have great videos on the environment, there's Kristen Leo. She's been absent from YouTube for personal reasons, but a lot of her old videos, or old like within this year, these 2 years, are a lot about like fast fashion, veganism, but she also talks about more like societal issues. There's also Sedona Christina, Shibizli, but all three of these girls are more focused on like individual actions that you can do, which I believe that we need to do little actions in our own everyday life, but we also need governments and corporations to step up and put systems in place so that society as a whole is sustainable. So one great person who's an intersectional environmentalist is Green Girl Leia. She talks a lot about how, you know, climate change and the environmental crisis affects people of color and indigenous people disproportionately, and just how the role of like BIPOC individuals in this crisis, and how it's really a manifestation of like systems of oppression, capitalism. So it shows a more complex picture of this environmental crisis. Thank you for watching. I hope you liked this video. I hope you found it helpful. Please give it a like, comment, subscribe, and let me know if you're taking any resolutions this year to be more eco-friendly, to learn more about the environment. If you are, leave a comment down below. And if you have any questions, leave a comment down below. You can always also DM me on Instagram. Have a great day and Happy New Year!